have to acknowledge I screwed up drafting Daniel Jones. But Daniel Jones has got about 6 more games with Joe Judge, and Joe's going to be done with it. He has a major fumbling issue, and he can't get over it. But it's amazing how many teams could potentially draft a quarterback. And here's what's interesting. I saw Mel Kiper's story this morning where he said the Jets should stick with Sam Darnold over Justin Fields. Translation, this number 2 pick is valuable. So I was on the phone this morning with 2 NFL execs. So San Francisco, a story this weekend, was that the Niners are moving off Jimmy Garoppolo. That was a story by a legitimate NFL reporter. They're not happy with Garoppolo. They're going to seek alternatives. Number 1. Number 2 is the Niners see themselves as a win-now proposition. They've got the players. In fact, how long could George Kittle last? They need some secondary help and a quarterback they trust. So let's just do a hypothetical. Mel Kiper saying keep Darnold, accumulate picks. So I asked 2 different front office execs in the NFL, what could the Jets get as the number 2 team if the number 12 pick San Francisco moved up? And both said Jets have a ton of leverage because if the Niners are drafting a cornerback, not as much, but a quarterback, the Jets have a ton of leverage. I got multiple number 1 picks and probably like a third. So you'd get next year and the year after, you'd probably get number 1 picks. But even this year, because the Niners don't have a first-round pick to give you this year, if you kept Darnold, you'd have 2 first-round picks this year, 2 third-round picks this year. Niners don't have a third to give you this year. If you moved down to 12 from 2, and you got a second this year from the Niners and 2 firsts for a quarterback, you'd have 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds this year. Then you'd get 2 firsts and 2 thirds the following year. Capiche? Following me? The bottom line is Joe Douglas had a good draft. You're giving Sam Darnold 6 starters this year. You can solve your cornerback issue and your O-line issue right there. So I think they're going to draft Justin Fields, but Kiper says basically Darnold's got something. It looks like they have. The one thing the Jets have now is a very competent Joe Douglas GM. He had a very good draft. You can get a lot for that pick. Now, the question is, when you have all those draft picks, some won't hit, and they're all young. So you cross your fingers that you get a camp, an OTA, and preseason, so you're ready to go. If you did pandemic again, then you're just crossing your fingers the guys can hit by October or November. But it's an interesting proposition. I guess my point being that we talk about who doesn't need a quarterback to start the year. I look at the top 15 picks. Chargers, Bengals, Giants, probably no. Jags, Jets, Dolphins. I've said if I was Atlanta, I would draft a quarterback. Philadelphia, according to one mock draft, Pro Football Focus, they're taking a quarterback. Detroit, Carolina. I mean, Dallas probably doesn't, but Andy Dalton might find himself with other opportunities. Man, that number 2 pick, if you keep Sam Darnold, you have massive leverage. You're going to get a couple of firsts, maybe a second. You got a lot of leverage. I got a couple of buddies coming up on the show. Former Patriot quarterback coach Jed Fish, now the coach of the Arizona Wildcats, going to be joining me. Bucky Brooks, too. Eric Dickerson, Josh Norman of the Buffalo Bills today. Sensitive personal medical data could be exposed as recent analysis suggests an increase in cyber security attacks on pharmaceutical workers. This increase in remote work from home has coincided with the targeting of smartphones and tablets, people working in that industry. Every day we put our info on the internet, especially during tax season, during the holidays. We're buying stuff. Cyber criminals, they keep finding new ways to steal our identity. LifeLock detects it, a wide range of identity threats. Your information has potentially been compromised. They send you an alert from a domestic agent immediately. Nobody sees all the threats or stops them all. But if you want 25% off your first year, LifeLock.com, code HERD, or call 1-800-LifeLock, code HERD. Somebody steals your identity. It is a headache and could take over a year to fix. 25% off first